Hi, welcome to Pages with Sidra here. I bring you the novels behind your favorite manga, Manhwa, and Manhua, whether by translating or simply reading them for you. Let's dive into the stories that inspire the comics we all love. I got a cheat ability in a different world and become extraordinary even in the real world. Volume 15. Chapter 1. Divine Authority and Divine Power. Part 1. Wolf. While Yuir and the others were learning about Chu's story, Knight and the others were stumped. The power of the eerie mask in the storage room of Yuir's house had suddenly transported them into a mysterious world. There was no sign of life around them, not even human beings. However, buildings that were clearly remnants of civilization were buried in the sandy expanse in a state of decay. It had been some time since they arrived in this mysterious world, but there was no particular indication that they would be able to return to their original world. Deciding that there was no point in thinking about it any further, Knight asked Akatsuki and the others to explore the surrounding buildings for the time being. Woof. Woof. Fugo. Hi. Woof. But Akatsuki gave up thinking from the beginning and just nodded to Knight's words. Seal was the same way and never denied that what Knight, his senior, said was absolute. Despite his uneasiness about their situation, Knight went to a nearby building. It was the same structure as the buildings on Earth, which Knight also knew. After telling them to split up and search the area, they began to move individually. Woof. Knight was interested in the building itself at first. He was cautious and tried to touch the walls of the building, but nothing happened. Woof. Then, with a little more energy, Knight attacked the wall of the building in front of him with his claws. The wall was easily torn apart by his attack. Woof. Looking at the result, he decided for the moment that the building itself was not made of any special material. He also examined the interior, but unlike the building itself, it had already decayed, and nothing decent remained. When the search was over, and he returned to his original location, he found Akatsuki sleeping peacefully. Woof. Buhai. Woof. When Knight asked if something was wrong, Akatsuki seemed not to have moved from the beginning and only gave a dull, indifferent answer. Seal returned when Knight was startled by Akatsuki's pace. Woof. Pi. Woof. He asked Seal if something was wrong after his return. No, the fact that there was no change was the most unusual thing about this place. The reason was that despite being in such a special place, the materials and architectural style of this building were no different from those on Earth. In other words, this world must be related to Earth. That was, maybe the things from Earth have somehow drifted to this world, just like Knight and the others. Or it could be another world similar to Earth. With the little information he had, Knight made a lot of assumptions. As he started to move, he suddenly felt the appearance of something nearby. Woof. Knight was startled by the presence. For Knight had not let his guard down while moving. However, the presence appeared and penetrated Knight's vigilance. Woof, woof. Hey. Buhai. Knight immediately called to the others to be alert, and Seal and Akatsuki took up their fighting stance. And then, Huro. A strange monster appeared in front of Knight and the others. After listening to Iris-san's story in more detail since then, we returned to the house on Earth at once. Iris-san was ready to go right away, but her strength had not recovered, so we decided to let her rest for a day. But I could understand Iris-san's impatience. Because it seems that Master Yuzardi and Odi-san were captured by the Katana Senchu in order to let Iris-san escape. I never thought that Master Yuzardi and the others would challenge them and lose. Once again, I informed Kuya-san and the others about the situation with Iris-san and the others. I see. HMPH, that sounds like something stupid people would come up with. After hearing my explanation, Kuya-san thought hard, and Ami-san snickered. It seems that things have blown up a lot in this short time, so what are you going to do, Yuir? I'm going to help them. When I heard that Master Yuzagi and the others had been captured, there was no way I could stay put. Of course, there were many things to worry about, like the mysterious woman and the whereabouts of Knight and the others. But I couldn't just leave Iris-san and the rest of the other world alone. Kuya-san nodded at my words and continued as if he had just remembered something. Speaking of which, I didn't really hear it because I was too distracted to listen properly, but the one next to you is. Naya. As if to introduce herself again, Stella meowed once and raised her paw. This child is Stella, whom I met in the Between Worlds. I've heard that she's a dimensional cat, but... I've never heard of that. I've never heard of it either. Even Almasen has never heard of them. But Almasen looked at Stellar and continued as if stunned. But it is not surprising that I have never heard of it. In the first place, you normally can't even go to the Between Worlds, so I don't even know what kind of place it is, let alone if there are any life forms there. That's right. If I had not met the me in the parallel universe and learned of Yin's existence, I would not have known about the Between Worlds. In any case, we should welcome the new power. After all, Knight and the others were gone for now. I suppose so. Would I really be able to help Ira-san and the others with just me? Just as I was thinking about it, I felt a soft touch on my foot. Nair. Thank you. Then Stellar put her paw on my leg as if to tell me to leave it to her. Well, I couldn't stay down forever. Kuya-san said that he and Alma-san would look into Knight and the others' situation, and I should focus on Ira-san and the others. When I felt calmer, thanks to Stellar, Alma-san looked at me and Stellar again. Though you might not need to worry too much. Eh? I don't know how much divine power that Shu and the others have acquired, but I'm sure it's less than the sages. No, that's... I can't say for sure because I haven't fought them, but if you say so, I think so too. In fact, if it were more than Sage-san, I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Most importantly, my lord received the same power as Stellar there in the Between Worlds, right? Then there should be no problem. I told them that I fought and won the battle against Yin and the others in the Between Worlds, but I didn't tell them exactly how I defeated them. However, Alma-san seemed to notice the new power swirling inside me at first glance. Well, I'm not quite sure what kind of power this power of existence is. Then Lunar, who had been listening to us in silence, opened her eyes. You got stronger again. Huh? Well, I guess so. As expected from you, Yasama, but at this rate we will never be able to catch up. Huh? Just ignore that girl. Why? As usual, Luna and Lexia-san started arguing, but what did they mean by catch up? When I tilted my head at Lexia-san's words, Kuya-san closed his eyes for a few moments and then opened them quietly. Domu, I told Ryume-sama about what happened in the Between Worlds. Thank you very much. As soon as things settle down here, I will visit again to greet her. This time, Ryume-sama was very helpful to me, so I had to go and greet her properly. I also asked her about Knight and the others and about Divine Pausari, but Ryume-sama doesn't know any details about the whereabouts of Knight and the others. It might be different if she could see the masks directly, but it wouldn't be funny if we were sent somewhere else the moment we touched them again. That's certainly true. It's frustrating, but to avoid further damage, it's probably best not to touch the mask carelessly. In fact, if it were true, I would have liked to keep it somewhere safe and secure right now. However, I learned a bit about divine power. Really? Although I had heard a little about Ira-san, I did not seem to have a firm grasp on the nature of this power. I would be grateful if I could find out here. I thought so, but after listening to Kuya-san's explanation, I realized just how powerful the existence of Shu really is. First of all, the divine power is basically the same thing as the divine authority that Yuir and the others can handle. It is literally the power of a god, and it can do anything. It can literally create or destroy the world. Yes. I knew this because I had seen the power of the observers in action. The only thing is, I'm not sure if it could actually create the world, but it's still a powerful thing. But Maya and Ira-san's divine authority isn't perfect. Could it be that Shu and the others' divine power is perfect? Even I don't know. But considering the fact that Iris Stono was able to reach Yuya's house and the fact that the world is still out of control, Shu's divine power must be incomplete as well. Huh. Think about it. If he really can handle a complete divine power, why doesn't he just use it to rule the world on his own without having to deal with such troublesome things like declaring war? Kuya is right. They don't have the power to do that, so they take the roundabout way out. But here comes the problem. The divine authority of Yuya and the others will probably not become extremely strong. This is because the higher beings, the observers, were originally born with these qualities, and they were forcibly implanted into the human Yuya and the others. In fact, you gave up being human to attain the divine authority, didn't you? Well. It's an extraordinary story when I hear it again, isn't it? I don't see anything special about his appearance. Lexia-san and Lunar, who had stopped arguing before I knew it, muttered this with somewhat distant eyes. Well, in my case, even before I got my divine authority, I've already deviated from a normal human with the benefit of leveling up. Anyway, Yuir and the others' divine authority can't improve you right away, while Shu and the others' divine power increases their power by gaining faith, just like a god. Faith? That's right. The power of people who pray to God becomes the divine power as it is. Shu is probably acting now to gain that faith. I see. Does this mean that we have to defeat Shu before he can gain enough divine power to easily change the world?
That's right. I don't know how long the Shu guy has been in the works, but he's quite a troublemaker.
That means we have to move faster and faster. The only thing is, if Iris-san doesn't recover, it will be difficult for us to move. The reason was that in order to move with divine authority to the vicinity of the base where Shu and the others were, we needed Iris-san's power. It was difficult to move instantly with divine authority unless you had been there before, just like with teleportation magic. I alone, who did not know the place, could not move there. As I thought about it, I suddenly remembered something Iris-san had told me that bothered me.
Speaking of that, I heard that Iris-san tried to use divine authority when she escaped from Shu and his group space, but she said that it didn't activate properly. There's a reason for that too.
It might be different if you originally had a powerful divine authority, but as long as you have an imperfect divine authority, it will not activate properly when it is consumed by the divine power that becomes more powerful with the power of faith. And no way, then how can we fight? If our divine authority doesn't work, it will be a very tough battle.
After all, while we can't use our divine power well, our opponents can use not only divine power but the power of the holy as well.
And when you add magic power to that, there is nothing we can do. In my case, I think I can use magic, sorcery, spiritual power, and the power of existence in the holy evil creation.
What are you worried about?
It is true that the power of a completed god would be mighty, but as long as it is not completed, your power should be enough to deal with them.
You don't need to worry about it.
Is that so?
Yes, that's right. After all, you won't know until you actually fight.
It is true. There is no point in worrying about it here.
In the end, I have to fight. I'll just do my best, that's all.
Oh, by the way, what about that woman?
After we finished talking about Shu and the others, I asked about the woman who came out of the coffin. Then,
Yumo, I don't know what to say. I'm sure she's unconscious right now.
I just don't know when she'll wake up. I guess you could say she's sleeping, but she seems to be missing some kind of power, and she won't wake up until she gets it back.
How, like magic power?
That's right.
But instead of magic power, should I say star power? Anyway, it will take a while for her to wake up.
I see.
For a moment, I wondered if she was okay not eating, but then I thought about it and realized that I didn't know how long she'd been in that coffin. Of course, there's no way she could have eaten while she was in the coffin, so maybe she doesn't need to eat. It's more likely that she's not a human being, even though she looks like one, or else there would be a lot of things wrong with her. Before, I would have fainted, not only because of the fact that she's not human, but now that I know about other worlds and have interacted with aliens, observers, and other non-humans, I'm not so surprised. Is that a good thing?
After that, we discussed a lot of things, and I rested to prepare for tomorrow.
And now moving on to part 2 of this chapter. The story is just getting more exciting, so let's dive right in and see where it takes us. As Yuir and the others rested.
May I hear your answer, King Auxilia?
The important figures of the Kingdom of Auxilia, including the king, Arnold, his bodyguard, Owen, and the Prince Rieger, were gathered in the audience chamber. Before Arnold's eyes, the figure of Shu Zakurin floated in the air.
Arnold lashed out at Shu, who was being disrespectful to the point of insolence. An answer?
That's already decided. I have no intention of accepting your control. Hearing Arnold's words, Shu frowned in displeasure.
That's a foolish answer for King Arnold, who is known for his intelligence.
If our answer is foolish to you, so be it.
We have no intention of accepting your ideals.
Can you really say the same for your people?
What?
Arnold frowned at Shu's words. You are already in a high position. You have been surrounded by good things since your birth, and you have lived a life without any discomfort. Can your thinking and the thinking of the people really coincide?
That's...
Those who always live on the edge of life and death will agree with us.
Your Majesty.
Do not listen to him.
That's right.
Father's reign has brought happiness to the people. Arnold was silenced by Shu's words. Then Owen and Rieger immediately raised their voices. Owen then turned his sharp gaze to Shu.
Katana Saint.
As you say, if humanity is controlled, evil will disappear, and there will be no more useless conflicts. But can we really call a world where even emotions are controlled a happy world?
I don't think so.
That is also the way of thinking of those who are born strong. That's why Father and the rest of us are taking steps forward and worrying so that people can live in peace and security. Arnold, who had been listening to Owen and Rieger's words, opened his mouth again.
Yes, that's right. We should not manage the people, but work hand in hand, talk to each other, and cooperate to achieve our ideal world. Shu's eyes narrowed as he met Arnold's powerful gaze. Each champion whatever. We'll see.
No matter what choice you make, God's will is absolute. With these last words, Shu's figure disappeared. Arnold watched the situation and sighed. Is this really the right thing to do?
Of course, Your Majesty. As Father said, it's only worth it if we work together to seek the ideal world.
A controlled world is no better than livestock or slavery.
I agree.
Arnold silently looked up at the ceiling.
What in the world drove him to do that?
Arnold muttered somewhat sadly. The next day, I got ready and went to see Irisan.
Irisan, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine.
Yuya-kun healed my wounds, and I have enough strength after a good night's sleep. Irisan smiled strongly as she said this. It might not be perfect yet, but it seemed to be okay for now. And this time I'll be bringing Mako and Stellar along with me. Naya.
I look forward to working with you.
Stellar casually lifted her paw, and Mako bowed beautifully. I couldn't check yesterday because of the situation, but this is the first time I've met them, isn't it? Well, there was a lot going on. To explain about Mako, I had to talk about what happened in the underworld, and for Stellar, I had to explain about the Between Worlds, which is another complicated situation.
Just so you know, they're both strong. You can count on me.
Naya. When they both said that strongly, Irisan nodded.
It's okay. For now, I just want to get some fighting power, and most importantly, Yuya-kun says they are strong. I trust you.
Thank you very much. Well then, let's get something to eat before we go.
It was at that moment.
Suddenly, there was the sound of a violent crash.
What is that? We rushed out into the garden of Sage-san's house. We saw a number of strange human-shaped figures standing around the garden.
They were all white and dressed like medieval knights, with a huge shield in one hand and a huge lance in the other. These mysterious white knights were standing around the house. What in the world are they? What in the world are these barriers? Exclamation. I looked towards the voice I suddenly heard and saw a figure in the air looking down at the house. It was a woman, with purple hair tied in 2 buns and wearing a somewhat gaudy outfit. When I tilted my head at the appearance of the mysterious figure, Irisan, who had been following me, also looked up at the sky and shouted. Whipsty/n I still can't understand the author's sense of naming. Lol. Ara, there you are. The purple-haired woman then looked at Irisan and smiled a little darkly.
I'm really getting sick of this place.
Maybe it's because the star power is so strong here that the divine power doesn't work well, and because of that, it's hard to find Iris. It's the worst. The woman said with a really annoying look on her face. Irisan, that person is.
She's Whips, the Whip Saint.
The Whip Saint. When I looked at the woman whipped figure again, I saw that she was indeed holding a long whip in her hand.
Whips, what in the world are you doing here?
And who are these knights? Irisan asked immediately, and Whips laughed like a fool.
Can't you see? Of course, we're here to catch you. War?
Do you understand?
I'm one of Shu's comrades. In fact, except for the Claw Saint, the Kicking Saint, and the Magic Saint, we are all comrades.
No way. It seemed that the situation was more serious than I thought. I don't know how many holy were there, but from what Irisan said, it seemed to be a very dangerous situation.
Besides, I didn't even know what's wrong with Master Usagi and Odi-san.
While we were looking at them with grim expressions, the White Knights, who had not moved at all, suddenly started to move.
Each of the White Knights picked up a lance and swung it into the garden, but they could not break through the barriers that Sage-san had set up.
Whip's face contorted in displeasure at the sight.
What? This barrier? It's annoying me to death.
The White Knights attacked violently, but Sage-san's barriers did not even budge. In this situation, wasn't Sage-san just amazing? What in the world is that White Knight?
Isn't it good?
They are the gods' soldiers we can create now that we have become gods.
God.
There's no way you can be like that.
When Irisan replied, Whips looked down at us as if we were really stupid. You still don't get it, do you?
No matter how many of us wholly defeat the evil, nothing will change unless we correct the root of the problem. That's why Shu and we will lead humanity.
Don't be ridiculous. You are not qualified to do such a thing.
Of course we are. Because we are strong. The weak can do nothing without us, then we should make the rules of the world. Shouldn't we?
Instead, we've left them too much to their own devices. If we just thought about it a little more, we could have found an easy way to do it.
This person was no. I wonder if all the holy who followed the existence of Shu thought like that. While I was speechless at Whip's words, she twisted her face. Damn it, you're in my way. You damn barriers.
Whip swing the whip in her hand, and it collides with the barrier, a tremendous sound roaring through the air. Ah.
Annoying, annoying, annoying. She swung the whip again and again, but there was no sign of the barrier being broken.
Still, I didn't know what would happen if I left it like this. Har. I took out my absolute spear and threw it at Whips with great force.
But, HMPH. Whips reacted immediately and blocked the spear with her whip.
Huh. Are you kidding me that your attack can pass, but ours can't?
No, if I were in the opponent's position, I would think the same thing, but this time I was very much grateful. It might not be fair, but if I continue to attack them from inside this barrier, I won't have to worry about getting damaged.
While I was thinking about it, Whips glared at me.
Who the hell are you?
Who do you think you are throwing a spear at me out of the blue?
This is why I don't like savage commoners.
How could Whips know how nice Yuya-kun is? How?
Iris-san.
I didn't really care about me.
While the two continued their indescribable exchange, the attacks of the White Knights and Whips did not stop. However, when Whips realized that the barrier would not be broken no matter how long it took, she suddenly stopped attacking as if she had thought of something. Seriously, what is this?
What's with these barriers? Why don't you just give up and go home?
Whips sneered at Iris-san, who smiled provocatively. Not that I mind, okay. I'll just wipe out the nearby cities.
Why? What are you talking about?
Why are you so surprised? What does it matter if some ordinary people disappear?
Don't be silly. Are you serious? I am serious. If you don't like it, why don't you stop me?
But if you're too scared and stay inside the barrier, there's nothing you can do. Ha 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 ha. Whips laughed foolishly, and all the White Knights surrounding the garden levitate and gather around Whips.
Then bye-bye.
Whips smiled foolishly and seriously tried to fly away.
I can't let you do that. I won't let you go.
Spiritual chain.
I immediately jumped out of the barrier and threw the absolute spear.
Mako followed suit, jumping out of the barrier and unleashing a chain of spiritual power to capture Whips.
Then.
Ha 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 ha. Aren't you idiots? Whips deflected the flying absolute spear and the spiritual chain, then turned to us and pointed the White Knights at us.
That's why it helps if you're a small fry with a weak spot. Hey, just hurry up and die.
The White Knights rushed in like an avalanche.
I immediately tried to pull out my omnisword, since I didn't have my absolute spear in my hand right after the attack. I won't let you.
But before I could pull out my weapon, Iris-san stepped between me and the White Knights and slashed the attacking White Knights.
Why?
Whips did not seem to expect that the god soldiers would be defeated, and her eyes widened when she saw Iris-san slashing down the White Knights. How could you, who are not a god, kill my knights?
Well?
Isn't it because they are weak? As Iris-san fearlessly told the astonished Whips, a blue vein appeared on Whip's forehead.
You're just a small fry, don't you dare make fun of me.
Exclamation. At that moment, as the magic power overflowed from Whip's body, a large number of god soldiers appeared. Come be swallowed by the power of the gods. And now moving on to part 3 of this chapter. The story is just getting more exciting, so let's dive right in and see where it takes us. Come be swallowed by the power of the gods. Exclamation. A large number of god soldiers rushed in like a wave.
As we were about to intercept them, a white shadow jumped in front of us.
Naif.
Stellar.
Immediately after jumping out, Stellar charged straight into the crowd of god soldiers, weaving between them and destroying everything in her path.
Why?
Whips were surprised, but Stellar reached below her and jumped at Whips.
Fashar. W8.
What is this beast? Whips swung her whip at Stellar as if to drive her away, but Stellar dodged it all as smoothly as if she were liquid and swung her claws at Whips.
Higher.
The attack raised Whip's body, but she quickly twisted her body and moved out of the way.
However, the attack left a single scar on Whip's face, and blood poured down.
Then Whips touched the blood, trembling.
Blood.
This is my face. A scar. Screw you, you beast. Whips brandished her whip angrily. However, as if to take advantage of Whip's weakness, Mako's spiritual chain bound Whip's body. I got her.
What the hell is this?
Whips tried desperately to escape, but Mako's chains were so strong that she seemed unable to break free.
Hey, what are you doing? Hurry up and stop that bitch.
Whips yelled at the god soldiers around her, and they came at Mako.
Har. Naya.
However, Stellar and Iris-san stopped them all.
Har.
I felt that now was my chance, so I seized the opportunity and approached Whips.
But as if they had anticipated my move, the god soldiers surrounded me. Why? Ah ha 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 ha. You must be an idiot to isolate yourself in this situation.
Whips scoffed at my impatience.
Naya. Stella quickly moved to save me, but a new god soldier was spawned next to her, and she could not get close to me. Hi. I wanted to use my heavenly whip if possible, but I didn't have time to switch weapons, so I fought back with my omnisword. The absolute spear also returned to my hand, but I didn't have time to use it either.
Master.
Yuri-kun.
Seeing me like this, Iris-san and the others immediately started to move. Then, Whip's smile deepened as if she had been waiting for them.
You fool.
My target is you.
Why?
The moment Iris-san's attention turned to the god soldiers swarming around me, Whips broke Mako's chain. Then she immediately swung her whip, and it tried to wrap around Iris-san's body.
Ka.
She quickly dodged, but the whip moved as if it had a mind of its own, relentlessly chasing after Iris-san.
Ha ha ha. You let your guard down, didn't you?
Your so-called divine authority is so unpleasant that I'm going to make you disappear right here. Iris-san. Naya.
You two watch over there.
Seeing the situation, Mako and Stellar immediately tried to move, but the god soldiers stood in their way and could not help Iris-san. Then the whip finally reached Iris-san, who ran away while dealing with the god soldiers. It's Bar.
Ha 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 ha. I've got you.
If this continued, Iris-san's body would be in danger. I thought so and unconsciously moved my body. Ugh. I swung my sword with all my might and wiped out the swarm of god soldiers. However, this was only a temporary solution, as new god soldiers will be created as soon as they are defeated.
However, I didn't miss this momentary opening and immediately switched to the absolute spear, targeting Whips. And then... Har. I threw the absolute spear at Whips again with all my might.
Why? Whips rolled her eyes at me. Troublesome.
I won't let you get away this time.
She moved to defend herself from my attack, but just as Whip's attention was drawn to me, Mako tightened the chains around Whip's body again. The chains were even tighter than before, and Whips were unable to break free.
Huh.
Hey, you've got to be kidding me.
Stop it right now.
Whip shouted as she struggled in her restrained state, and the god soldiers stood in the way as if they were shields protecting Whips. The god soldiers also held up their shields, and a translucent membrane-like shield appeared on them, taking an intercepting stance. However, in front of Sage-san's weapon, such a thing was completely meaningless. The absolute spear not only destroyed the shields of the god's soldiers easily but also pierced through the shields along with the god's soldiers.
Hey, no stop, don't come me.
Whips fought desperately to avoid the attack. But in the end, she could not dodge it, and the absolute spear pierced her chest. At that moment, Iris-san, who was being held by her, was also released, and the absolute spear returned to my hand.
I frowned as I retrieved the spear.
For the first time, I had killed a human being. You might be wondering what I'm talking about now after defeating many monsters in this other world and dragging aliens in space, but it was the first time I killed a human, someone of my own kind. But what shocked me even more was that even though I had killed someone, I wasn't that upset about it.
When I first met Lexia-san, there were human corpses lying around.
Even when I saw them, I remained calm. I wondered if my mentality had changed after rising to a higher level in this world. Seeing my frowning face, Iris-san noticed something and approached me.
Could it be Yuri-kun? That was... Yes, but don't worry too much.
She really wanted to kill people going about their normal lives, and no matter how hard we tried, she would never change her mind.
So there was no choice but to kill her. Yes. In my mind, I understood.
If we had not defeated her here, many people would have been unhappy. I take a deep breath to focus my mind.
It's all right now.
Iris-san, sensing that my mind had calmed down, smiled softly.
That's good.
More importantly, the fact that the pursuers have come this far means that we have to move quickly.
Phew, ha 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 ha.
Exclamation.
We were all suddenly struck dead by the sound of laughter that echoed through the air. How? Really, congratulations, okay?
Why are you still alive? Whips, who should have been killed, began to move as if nothing had happened. She was still restrained by the spiritual chain, and there was a large hole in her chest where the absolute spear had pierced her. Even though it was a fatal wound, no matter how you look at it, there was no blood running out of Whip's mouth or from the wound. Instead, nothing seemed to have changed, and she was laughing.
And then,
this chain is in the way. And no way. She easily tore off Mako's spiritual chain, which had become even stronger than the first.
Whips laughed condescendingly at her astonishment. That was funny.
You small fry, do you really think you can beat God?
As she said this, Whips turned her shoulders as if to tone her body, and to my surprise the hole in her chest that had been opened closed naturally. What?
Ah, Iris's expression, it's really great.
I just wanted to see that look.
Whip smiled lecherously at the stunned Irisan, but her face immediately contorted in disgust. I've always hated you. You're not even prettier than me, but you stand out more than me, and you're more admired than me. As Whip shouted and spread her hands, countless god soldiers suddenly appeared out of the void.
Look at this.
This is the difference between you and me, between a god and a mortal.
Huh.
In the next instant, a rainbow-colored aura similar to divine authority erupted from Whip's body. But what makes it different from ours is that the rainbow-colored aura has a shimmering gold and silver phosphorescence. That is the divine power.
Then, once again,
Mako again uses the spiritual chain to try to bind Whip's body. In addition, she also released spirit balls to match the attack there. The chains and the masses of spiritual energy all rushed towards Whips at the same time. However, Whips did not even try to dodge these attacks. Useless, useless, useless. And no way.
As soon as they touched Whips, both the chains and the orbs disappeared.
There's no way a mortal can harm a god's body. It's all useless. I have become a god.
You mortals can't stop me now.
Such a thing you'll never know until you try. Irisan shouted as she jumped at her. Then, the god soldiers attacked all at once. Ha ha ha. There is no need for me to do anything. Let the god soldiers kill you like this.
Ha.
I immediately took out my omnisword as well and slashed at the god soldiers to cover Irisan. HMPH. The god soldiers immediately raised the shields to defend against my attack, but ordinary defenses are meaningless in the face of the omnisword. I slashed them along with the shields.
How?
What in the world is that guy with the barrier and the sword? Whips, who had been watching me fight, twisted her face in disapproval. Defeating the god soldiers is beyond disrespectful. You're not a god, you're just human. Irisan waded through the attacks of the god's soldiers and reached Whips, then slashed at her. But just as she did not dodge Mako's attack, Whips smiled again and did not move.
You fools. I can't believe you attacked. Har.
Wajai. Whips had a victorious smile on her face, but Irisan's sword sliced right through her body. Perhaps not expecting to take damage herself, Whips screamed as she sent a new god soldier at Irisan and left the scene.
WWY.
Why did Iris attack? Ara, it looks like I can do some damage if I use my divine authority, huh?
Ha. Divine authority?
Upon closer inspection, a rainbow-colored aura similar to divine power emanated from Irisan's sword in her hand. I see. If the attack is imbued with divine authority, it will be able to damage Whips. If that's the case, then Irisan and I were the only ones who could use divine authority in this place right now.
Mako, Stellar.
Cover me and Irisan.
Understood. Naya.
Both of them seemed to understand my thoughts immediately, and they changed their actions to help me as I ran under Whips and Irisan, who was attacking again. The god soldier approaching Irisan was destroyed by Mako and Stellar. And apparently, the god soldier could be easily defeated even without divine authority. However, Whips had been wounded, but the wounds were gradually fading. Normal attacks either didn't work or heal instantly, but if it's imbued with divine authority, will it slow down the healing of the wounds? Shit.
Don't get cocky with me, you fucking imposter. Ka. Whips yelled, swinging her whip around.
Die already, Whip Rebellion. The whip moved faster than the speed of sound, coming at us from all directions.
I won't let you. Fashar.
But Mako and Stellar blocked these attacks. I followed suit, cutting down the god's soldiers as I approached Whips.
Ah. But before I could get close to Whips, she instantly moved away from us with her divine power, just like the instant movement we used with the divine authority. Don't come any closer, you small fry.
And as soon as the distance was taken, she produced new god soldiers one by one. How many in the world are you going to summon?
The number of them would have exceeded 100 by now.
No matter how many were defeated, more and more god soldiers were created.
Don't tell me that she could summon an infinite number of these god soldiers.
Besides, even if Irisan inflicted damage with an attack using divine authority, she would recover after some time. The more time passes, the more disadvantageous it would be for us. And now, moving on to part 4 of this chapter, the story is just getting more exciting, so let's dive right in and see where it takes us. The more time passes, the more disadvantageous it would be for us. Whip smiled with a lecherous smile as if she could sense our thoughts. Ha ha ha.
What?
No matter how hard you try, you are nothing before the power of God.
Just die quietly. Naya.
Why? Then, taking advantage of Whip's high laughter, Stellar approached her again and attacked her. But Whip dodged the attack in a split second. TCH, know your place, you fucking beast. You're annoying me to no end.
Stellar. Naya.
The attack of the god soldiers was focused on Stellar. However, Stellar let out a single reassuring cry and continued to dodge the attacks of the god soldiers smoothly. Watching Stellar like that, I suddenly realized something.
Why did she dodge Stellar's attack?
I think that out of all of us here, the only one who could use divine authority to Whip's knowledge was Irisan.
That's why she would be wary of other humans' attacks, but Mako's attacks did reach Whip's from time to time. However, there was no pretense that Whips avoided those attacks.
Well, divine authority emitted a rainbow-colored aura, so as long as she was careful with it, it might not be too difficult to keep track of who could use it. Besides, it would be to say that it was a reflex to avoid her, but I had a strange feeling of uneasiness. When I tried to find out what that strange feeling was, my eyes fell on a certain spot on Whip's face.
It was the scar that Stellar had inflicted on Whip's face. The hole in her chest that I had pierced was closed, but why hadn't the wound on her face healed? After thinking about it so much, I came up with an idea.
Could it be possible to defeat her by using the power of existence? The divine authority attack was also effective, but it only slowed down the healing of the wounds, and it did not remain like the wounds on that face. If that was the case, then the only possible reason for that wound to remain was the power of existence. Ame-san and Kuya-san also said that if I could use the power of existence, I would be fine, but how did they know that?
No, that's not the point now. If it turned out that way. Ha!
I took out the absolute spear again and threw it at Whips with the power of existence. Whip's face contorted as the absolute spear flew by at a tremendous speed.
That spear again?
How can it be in the same move over and over again?
Why? Whip swung her whip, and it wrapped around the absolute spear, slowing it down. Here, I'll give it back to you. She threw it back at me.
I caught it and put it back in my item box. No, she was already on the lookout for the absolute spear and the omnisword.
Then, formless bow.
I took out my invisible bow and silently aimed it at Whips.
What? No matter what you do, your attacks won't work anymore.
Whips smiled victoriously. Ignoring her, I fired an invisible shot. The arrow I fired went straight through the god soldiers and pierced Whip's body. W, what is this? Which shouted as the invisible arrow pierced her body.
Also, W, what the hell, why won't my wounds heal? What the hell have you done to me?
The wounds from that blow, imbued with the power of existence, still did not heal. But Whips, completely alarmed by this, turned all her god soldiers on me. I will never forgive you.
You guys, kill him quickly.
The god soldiers came like a tidal wave. If I dealt with them normally, I would not be able to escape.
Then,
Heavenly Whip.
I also took out my whip and swung it as hard as I could.
At that moment, the tail of the whip increased countless times and wrapped around the bodies of all the attacking god soldiers, crushing and breaking them as it did so. In an instant, all the god soldiers were defeated, and Whips was stunned as if in disbelief. W, what is this, oh, and no, I have to run. And Whips, realizing that she had no chance of winning, tried to flee the place. But,
I won't let you escape.
Wahiris! Exclamation. Iris-san, who had gone around before Whips used her divine power, slashed Whips in two with a single swing.
It was a terribly sharp sword reminiscent of Sage-san's attack. That was an idle strike.
Despite my surprise, whips, who had been cut into pieces, disappeared like sand.
Around the time Yue was fighting whips. At the Aosei Academy. Kaori.
Please marry me. Surprisingly, Kaori was proposed to. The sudden situation made Kaori's eyes turn black and white, and she quickly let go of the hand that had been taken from her. Joshua-sama.
The man who had suddenly proposed to Kaori Joshua was the crown prince of a certain country, which was related to the school Kaori's sister Kasumi attended. The sudden appearance of such a man was a surprise, but the fact that he also asked Kaori to marry him confuses her.
Then James, the butler who had been standing behind Joshua for some time, opened his mouth softly. Your Highness, I think you are rushing into this. Kaori-sama is also surprised. Is that so? The marriage between us has already been decided, so why should she be surprised?
How?
The marriage had been decided. Kaori was even more confused by this completely new situation.
Then James came to her aid with a stunned look on his face.
Your Highness, the marriage is not decided yet. Kaori-sama has her own thoughts and feelings.
What are you talking about? Kaori will accept to marry me, of course, right?
And no, I have no intention of getting married, but...
Why?
Joshua's eyes widened, because he hadn't expected to be rejected. He immediately grabbed James.
Why is that? Kaori won't accept it. It's too sudden, and Kaori-sama doesn't know much about you either. It's only natural.
No way. Besides, she might already have someone in mind, you know.
What? Joshua raised his eyebrows at James' words.
Who is that guy? It's just hypothetical. If there is one, you can't force.
I won't accept it. I won't accept it. Interrupting James and shaking his head, Joshua turned back to Kaori. Kaori.
Do you have someone you have feelings for?
Huh? Kaori, who had been completely left out of the conversation, opened her eyes at the sudden mention of someone she had a crush on. At the same time, the image of Yuya came to Kaori's mind. Chats.
Seeing Kaori's reddened cheeks and subdued voice, Joshua knew exactly what she was thinking.
And no way you left me here for another man.
Your Highness, please give up. You should be quiet here in her homeland. Who is it?
How?
Who the hell is that man? Joshua shouted and turned back to Kaori.
Kaori, I'm serious. I came here to marry you.
Even if you say that.
You see,
I am a prince. I will succeed to the throne and become king.
I'm saying that I want to take you as my wife.
Are you saying that you'd rather be with some random guy from who knows where than the wife of the king? Yuya-san is no good for nothing. When Kaori shouted, Joshua narrowed his eyes in surprise.
I see.
Kaori's love interest is named Yuya. Ah. James, I want you to find out more about this Yuya person right away.
Understood.
James looked a bit surprised, but Joshua's orders were absolute, and he bowed his head reverently.
Then, Joshua turned to Kaori. Kaori, I'm going to retire today.
But I will show you that I am better than this man, and when that happens you will be mine. With that, he got back into his luxury car and drove away. Kaori watched in bewilderment.
What am I going to do?
When Kaori decides that this is too much for her, she immediately called her father, Sakarsa. There was also another movement on Earth. As expected, that woman has awakened. In the sky above Japan, a person in a white robe opened his mouth softly. These robed humans were the gods who once ruled the earth, and they were searching for the whereabouts of Sarah, who was sealed in a coffin.
Then, another human in the same outfit followed. What on earth are you doing?
If the seal was broken, we'll have to go through the same thing again.
No, I think we'll be fine. What?
One of his friends, surprised by his unexpected words, continued. I think everyone feels it, but the resurrected woman's sign is very weak.
We should assume that the influence of the seal was inevitable. We have been preparing for this for a long time.
It would be no small feat to deal with a weakened opponent after all this time. I suppose that's true.
But we can't just leave it at that.
Let's send in the god's soldiers to take care of her.
And what about us? We will go back to the divine beast. If we continue with our plan, this planet will be ours.
The white-robed humans then silently disappeared from the sky over Japan.
Thank you for watching Pages with Sidra. I hope you enjoyed this chapter of I got a cheat ability in a different world and became extraordinary even in the real world.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more volumes and novels. Let's keep exploring these amazing stories together. See you in the next one.